Hi there. Well, I have another car up for sale now. So what I usually like to do in recent times, not all of them, some of them I just put them on here for a review, but sometimes I try to give somebody a better view of the car if they're interested in buying it. And I'll do a link to Gumtree and Auto Trader in the end, and I'll do vice versa on the channels that I put the car up for sale on. Anyway, regardless, it's an X-Type Jag. It's 2003. And it's the 2.1 V6 Sport. Now, we are going to have a little drive in it, and we're going to have a look round my car, the one I'm trying to sell. And before you ask me two questions, why am I trying to sell it? Well, I buy and sell cars a lot, so that's why I can't keep keeping cars. You know, it's an expensive hobby, and I've just spent a little bit on it because it's a really nice one. But we're going to talk about that later. Now, the other question that I know that's just burning on your lips. It's just a Ford Mondeo with a Jag badge on it. Well, you're wrong, actually. Here's a Haynes manual, okay? And I'll read out a little bit for you. Sorry, I have to look down for a moment. And it says, although loosely based on a Ford Mondeo platform, the X-Type was up-rated and modified in almost every aspect. So no, it is not a Ford Mondeo. It does not use Ford Mondeo engines. It's its own car. They just used the basic platform to start with. Why not? There's no harm in it. And anyway, even if it was a Ford Mondeo with a Jag badge, there's nothing wrong with a Ford Mondeo at all. They're a blooming good car. Right. Do you know what we should do next? We should have a little drive in it. And I will say one more thing now, quickly. Colombo, just one more thing, sir. I say that I'm going to do the walk round of the car before I do the drive. In actual fact, I end up doing it the other way round, so just ignore me, alright, for that part. Anyway, let's have a little drive in it, then a little look round it, and we'll polish things up while we give you a little bit explanation of this particular car. Right, here we are inside the X-Type Jag. Now, we're going to go for a little ride just to show there's no noises, no knocks, no rattles, no lights on the dashboard. We'll go once round the car after, and then, actually no, probably what we'll do is we'll go around the car before we go out for a ride in it. And then when we get back, we'll talk about the pros and cons about having these X-Types. But I can promise you, this one is an exceptional one. It's only done about just under 70,000 miles. It's got a full service history, and it's been very well looked after. No rips, no tears. Not scratched, not dented, not knocked. Refurbed alloys, good tyres, years MOT. Very nice car. And it's a sport one. It's a 2.1 V6. Not to be confused with a 4-cylinder, which you would not want. I'm not going to be focusing on the diesels because I don't know anything about the diesel ones. I've never had one. But I've had the 2.5, the 3 litre and this 2.1. They're all the same engines with varying kinds of performance. But we'll get into that later. But for now, let's take it for a little drive, shall we? Now, this is a manual, by the way, not an automatic. You lose a lot of power. Shoot. Well, there you go. That was what I was listening to. Fear Factory, by the way. I'm sure you're really interested in that, aren't you? Right. The aircon works on this as well. Everything works. So... here we go. Now, I should bring this up again later, but I'll bring it up now just for the sake of it. This is not a Mondeo, alright, in Jag's clothing. Yes, they did share some similarities between each other in terms of length and size, and I think the floor pan is the same, and as you know, they're transverse, these engines. But they did do 4-wheel drive versions of these cars as well, although I could imagine that's quite a nightmare. This is just the standard transverse front-wheel drive version, and to be honest with you, I've got no complaints over it. The gear shift is nice, it comes to hand. I prefer the CD player in the front of this car. Particular one is front-loading. It's not in the boot, it's actually in the dashboard, which makes things a lot easier. Because, as you know, it's really annoying if you put so many 6 CDs in the back, then you suddenly think, oh, I've got CDs in the front here, I'd like to change them. Well, you can't, because you have to stop, open the boot, get them out, swap them around, and I do prefer a front-loading CD player. Another thing to note of this one, it has different heater controls. Now, initially I didn't like them because they reminded me a bit, ooh, I'm going to say a naughty word here, so just bear with me. They reminded me a bit forward-like, because it's just big 3 round knobs that you turn. But it has its advantages, and I'll tell you for why. The ones that they usually have, the higher spec ones, because this is a sport one, so the suspension is slightly shorter and the ride is a bit harder. You'll get used to it anyway. As I said, even a hard ride on a Jag is better than most cars. But yeah, so the riding is slightly different because it's a sport one. And yeah, let's go back to the heater. So usually they have sort of like a digital display for the heater, but I'll point this all out later when we go over the car physically. And I tried to swap it over for one of these. It's actually in the boot, and I suddenly found out that 2 of the connections fitted and 1 of them didn't. So if you have any ideas or aspirations of changing it over, I'm afraid it's not doable unless you're a very skilled electrician, which I am not, funnily enough. But having said that, clear on the dashboard, not a single warning light. She goes very well, handles tightly, and I think they are a truly underestimated car. Now, I've done some modifications on terms of not mucking around with the car or anything. I suppose the only modifications I would say is that I've changed the grille to a mesh grille, because the grille on here, even though it's a sport one, didn't have a mesh grille, which I was surprised at. And being as this is a sport, it has a spoiler on the back, which we will see later. What else can I say? Yeah, the alloys have all been done in gloss black. They were just a standard alloy looking colour, but I thought, nah, let's just perk it up a little bit. Blue dust cap covers. I painted the calipers, although to be honest with you, they could probably do with another paint now. Other than that, I don't really know what else I can add to this. So I tell you what, let's give it a little bit of stick for a moment. Hopefully the camera won't fall over. Ah, it did. Now, fingers crossed, the camera doesn't move. Let's give it a bit of stick and see what we can get out of it. So as you can tell, there is no problem with performance. And there you go. So, without further ado, shall we get round to looking around the car now? And then we'll have a little discussion about performance and what you get for your money. Okay. Well, here she is. This is what she looks like from the outside. As you can see, the grille is meshed and everything is body coloured. There's no chrome on this car. You can see. Oh, sorry, I've just walked into the frame. I didn't want to do that. Bad by me. Yes, alloys all been done. As you can see, the calipers have been done yellow, but I think we could do with again. There's a little bit of chrome I've added to the wing. There's a stripe and a Jag badge along the side, which I added. Just builds up on it. This is a car that does not suit chrome, and I'm also trying to point out the fact there is no rust on this car at all. Unlike the old XJs, they don't rust around the front sills or the rear wheel arches. They actually are incredibly good for that. And as you can see round the back, it's rather neat. There's the spoiler that I mentioned yet again. It's in incredibly good condition. I said whoever owned this car really cared about it. So it's all straight down the side here. There's no ripples, no bad touch-ups, no bad dents, nobody trying to put things right that went wrong. As you can see, it's a really straight car. And I'm going to look in the inside now. See, usually they rip round here where the seatbelt lies and you rub in and out. Nothing. No rips, no tears. It's half leather interior, as most of the sports are. And you can see the dashboard layout. It's quite nice actually. Like, I probably would have done without the wood and put a carbon look, but there you go. There's a traction control it has. Manual gear shift, and now we'll talk about the heater. As you can see, it's just 3 round knobs and everything else is controlled on that. You have a numerical keypad on the radio, which is a CD player too. But the seats, look, not a mark on them. Excellent condition. Nice sound to the doors when they shut. So take a look in the back, and as you can see, nobody's ever been in here. The armrest pulls down. It is a 3-seater at the back, but you can pull the armrest down. It has little cup holders on it, which is kind of natty actually.
Even my XJ doesn't have that. And as you can see, all around the doors interior, not a mark on them. And the headlining isn't dropped on this, which is exceptional for a Jag. Sorry about the sun, it just keeps... I filmed this on a very sunny day. Well, one can't help. This is the view from sitting at the back of the car. It's not tiny, and it's not massive. It's a really comfortable car to be in. The proportions are nice, and here is the V6 engine. And as I've mentioned out, there's a few things to look for, but we'll get into that later. Always check where you see the oil there. Make sure it's not milky. Just I mean, there's a head gasket on the way out, and you do not want that. And you're always going to look out for these because they split. But we're going to get into that later. All right?
Right. Now, we've seen round the car, haven't we? What do you think? It's not too bad, is it? I said it's just coming up for 70,000 miles now. Has good tyres all round. Everything works, even the aircon, which is nice because you usually buy a car and say, and it needs gassing up and it'll be fine. And you gas it up. No, there's a leak in the pipe, mate. You need the whole system rechanging. Sorry about that. I thought, how many times has that happened to us? Millions. Well, if you have millions of cars, I suppose it hasn't. Just every car you ever buy that's used, I suppose. Right. Now let's talk about the engines and performance, shall we? And that's the bit you're probably most interested in. Now, as you know, I pointed out it's a manual, not an automatic. Now, the 3-litre one I had was an automatic, and I don't want to be harsh about it, but the automatic gearboxes aren't the best. Okay, that's all I'll say. I'll leave it there. The one I had, you used to put your foot down. It used to go. Basically, it's like it's slipping all the time. So I got rid of that one, which is a shame. I like that car, but needs must sometimes. This one hasn't got the problems. It's a manual, and I would recommend going for the manual. There's a few criticisms of the car, which this is something you need to look for when you buy them anyway. And I've pointed these out when I've done a walk around. I'm just going to point them out again, and some other things that I possibly didn't mention. Now, you've got to look out for the timing chains on it. They all have chains, even the diesels. I'm not going to talk about the diesels ones, like I've said, because I don't know anything about them, and I've never owned one. So, the problems and faults, I can't comment on them, because I just don't know. And by the way, I apologise for my attire at the moment and how I look. I've been out working all day, and I've had to get this done now while I've got a chance, because I've got more stuff to do today. And there's no point me having a clean-up. No, I'm going to get it filthy again after. Not that kind of filthy, guys. Just work-wise, alright? Yes, I know what you're thinking. Stop. Right. So, where was I? Yeah, timing chains. Look out for them. If there is a timing chain problem, listen to the engine. If the idle's slightly rough, or there's a rattle, or there's metal fragments maybe in the sump, just be mindful. You can listen to it from the engine. You will hear it if the timing chain's on the way out. They do last a long time, but do be warned and listen out for the car. And preferably hear it starting on cold choke. Because when things get hot, they get quieter. And it masks a whole multitude of problems. So if you get to a car and it's warmed up already, and you go, oh, that's nice, they warmed it up for me. They didn't do it to help you. They did it to mask the noise. And also, as I pointed out when I was walking around the car, repetition for emphasis, I'm sorry, I'm just a bit like that. The header tank and the coolant system of these cars is all plastic. So do look for splits, because I had one with a cooling leak. I think it was a 2.5 one. And I kept going, where's this water coming from? I checked all the pipes, checked the water pump. One quick thing while we're talking about the coolant system. The water pump sits on the back of the engine. Now, literally, because it's a transverse engine, it sits not like that, like a rear-wheel drive, but it sits like that. And Jag, because they are clever, this is a fully modernised, reworked engine from another car actually, which they put in the Jag, but it's a good engine. The water pump sits at the back, so it has nothing to do with the timing chains, unlike the MG, where the timing belts they have on them is attached to the water pump, which is the most ridiculous idea I've ever had. But Jag are clever, and they've used an engine where you've actually got the water pump separate from the timing chains on the other side. Marvellous stuff! But yes, anyway, going back to the coolant system problems with them, this doesn't have it by the way, they split down the tank, and you can't see it, and it just seeps out. And when it's cold, you don't usually go, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. And obviously you're not going to start fiddling around with the header tank when it's hot, unless you want to get burnt, and most people don't. But yeah, there's a little leak, and as it expands when it gets hotter, it starts to seep water out, and you get there and you go, well, where's all the water gone? I can't see any, because literally it burns on the manifold on the way out, and it just evaporates. So have a look at that. Now, plugs are another awkward one. You can get at the bank at the front. There's bank 2 at the front, I think it is. And you can get all 3 plugs, no problem at all, and all the coil packs. If you want to do the 3 at the back, now that's getting slightly complicated because you've got a manifold inlet and you have to take the whole thing to pieces. Apparently the plugs and the coil packs are good for 5 years. But, anyway, it's a job and a half. It's not the worst because you can actually get to them, but you've got to take everything off the top. So be mindful, if it's running a little bit rough, you can always put it onto one of those little code readers and it should tell you the reasons why. I mean, I did that on this one. Check the engine check manifold because there's, just repeated myself twice, there's 2 sensors on each manifold going into the cats. I just had to replace one because the engine management light came on and I was thinking, oh no. And it was absolutely fine. About 12 quid it cost me for the new part, shoved it on, jobs are good and done. Right, now we're going to talk about the engines in terms of performance. 2.1, 2.5 and 3 litre. Now the 2.1 is the one I've got, which is a manual. It pushes out about 158 brake horsepower and it'll do 0 to 60 in roughly about 8.7 seconds, which is not too shabby. It's got a lot of torque and it's got a nice sound to it. It's a very nice car to drive and very comfortable. The 2.5 pushes out about 190. I think it's coming up for about 7.5 seconds, 0 to 60. Very nice. As long as you get the manual one, don't get the automatic one. And that's probably going to be a sport one as well. And as I said, the sport one sits slightly lower anyway, so the ride is a bit better. And then you've got the 3 litre SE, which I think most of them are automatics. Well, one I had was. So you unfortunately won't get a manual one of them, I don't think, unless they do exist. I haven't seen one or owned one. And they push out about 225, 230 brake, and that will get its arse, I think, for about 6.9 seconds, 0 to 60. They're all brought to heel about 130, 140, that kind of speed. The top end doesn't really vary that much. And they're very good engines. My only problem with pedal configuration on the manual one is I've got big feet and I can push the gas pedal and the brake pedal at the same time. And usually the gas pedal is slightly over that. I say gas pedal. Acceleration pedal show. I'm not American. I'll be calling it a hood soon, won't I? So the acceleration pedal, shall we say, is there, usually, and then the brake pedal, and then you got your clutch over there, right? Fine, makes sense. They've moved everything over, so you've got no footrests on the manual, which is really annoying because you've got all this space over on the right-hand side, and all the pedals are like squashed to the left. I don't know why they did that. So there's no footrest. That's my only criticism of the car. That's it really. I don't really know what else to say. I'm putting this car up for £1,950. It'll be going up on Gumtree on Auto Trader. As I told you, the mileage is very low. It has a service history. It's not marked, scratched, dented, knocked. It's in impeccable condition. I can't really, this is incredible buy I brought this car, and I can't fault it. Other than those few little niggly bits, but to be honest with you, you're going to get out of every car, aren't you? So there you go. It's a really good car, handles well, performs well, there's a lot of car for your money, and it's very comfortable. What more can you say? So hope that's been some insight to the X-Type, and now I shall leave it in everybody else's capable hands if they're interested. And now I need to go and put it back up on Gumtree. I think Gumtree would be a better place to put it. Gumtree might be some odd site. I've just made one up. And also Trader as well. Anyway guys, take care. See you a lot out there.